Sorry.
Keith.
Oh,
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, just to respond to Rose. Carol is retired, but she will be coming back as needed to assist in some of the projects that she's been consistent working on over the years. So she will be back in as needed.
wonderful. Thank you. That's good news for sure. Okay, so we will move on now to remarks by counselors on public participation.
Email correspondence.
Oh, did anybody have any email correspondence? I did not.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good. Thank you. I always skip that one. Thank you. All right, so next item is remarks by counselors on public participation. I don't see anyone's hands up, so we will continue on to consideration of old business. And the first item would be health update regarding COVID-19. Mr. Chapman.
Yes, the COVID-19 issue still remains a high priority for the town. We're still in a closed mode for the buildings. However, we're moving forward very slowly at the support and guidance of our health district director. I did ask some specific questions as a result of our last discussions concerning some of the issues, and let me just go over those quickly with you so I can give you an update. The first one dealt with, there was a request that could the council hold face-to-face meetings, and Mr. Brown's response is basically, you can hold them, but you must honor the social distancing, the masks, and the number of people that are within a particular area. What he suggests, if you did want to do something like that, that it should be certainly done outdoors, not inside a conference room or anything like that. Whether we can do a public hearing, we'll say outdoors, I would defer that to Councillor Donahue from NCTV to see if there's a way of doing that. And if they can do it for us, then I think we could probably schedule that type of meeting, but it would be subject to weather conditions and so forth. The second question was dealing with opening of schools, and he still remains pretty much on target with what he said earlier, that the schools, if they reopen, have to follow a myriad of restrictions. And the hybrid model that the superintendent has proposed is certainly better than a full opening process, but it will be challenging, and hopefully it won't be a situation such as what's happening in Florida right now. The third issue was opening up the buildings themselves. We're not, with the new town hall, we're not prepared to open up. We do not have the plexiglass or the glass shields in place yet. They're on order. They were back ordered. I talked with Lisa Masden yesterday concerning the library, and I believe they're looking into a program where they would possibly open the library. However, there will not be any seating. It'll be strictly you come in, look at your area where you're looking for a particular book, and then check the book out and leave. So it will not be something where you come in and read the newspaper and spend 4 hours there. It would be strictly in and out. So those things we're working on. As far as the rest of the town goes, again, I'm happy to report we haven't had anyone come down with COVID-19. And I think that Charlie Brown recognizes that what we've done to date has worked extremely well, and he suggests that we continue doing that until we see where this thing's going to go. So that's the update on the COVID-19 issue. But we are available for business through telephone, or if someone comes to the library entrance to the new town hall, they can be served at that location just by calling the number of the department that they want to work with, and then someone from that department probably will come out and escort them in or do the business right outside. So we're doing the best we can with a very difficult situation.
Okay. Thank you for following up on all of our questions from last time. Any council question? Comment, concerns? All right, I don't see any hands up. We'll continue onward to Town Hall project. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Anist, go ahead.
No, I think Counselor Minor is trying to get connected.
Oh, okay. His hand is up. Does he have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if we could weigh in on the possibility with John as to whether or not they have the technical capabilities of doing an outside broadcast for any larger meetings that we may have in the short future.
Mike, I would, Mike, geez, sorry, because I would have to look. I mean, we're barely up in the studio as it is, and a remote shoot would be easy, but a remote shoot with a live Zoom component, I'll have to look. I'll have to talk to my tech people, which is my standard line for I don't have a clue.
Yeah, I'm just curious if we would necessarily have to do a Zoom per se, if we were doing it outside in a socially distanced environment, that we'd be able to hold it in person.
I think you would still have to have the component of people who are in that, risk category who don't want to come out to see the, we'd have to talk about it. I don't know what it's probably something I have to go over with James and see if we had it outside, if we still had a Zoom.
Thank you.
I have a feeling we'll be talking a little bit more about this as an option later on in the agenda too. I think that we're aiming in a certain direction, but we'll definitely hit that when we get there. Any other questions on this topic? All right, see, now we'll move on to Town Hall project update. I believe that's you also, Mr. Chapman?
Yes, it is. Just a couple of things. As you all know, we are in the new town hall. All the offices are pretty much moved into now. We certainly still have challenges within the gymnasium area and within the conference rooms, but just to give you an update, the gym, the electrical work is completing his scope in the gym, with the exception of the electrical installation of the bleachers. And the bleachers are still on back order. They are held up because of the COVID-19. I have requested the state fire marshal's office come in and give us advice and some guidance on how the bleacher system is going to work with the panels, dividing up the gym, as well as the various exits within the building, make sure everything meets code and is safe for the public in general. So the gymnasium is far from being done. The subcontractor will be in to sand and paint the wood floor this week, and that'll take a while. And the partitions are scheduled to be in September 11th. So we're a couple months away from opening up the gymnasium at this stage of the game. The Parks and Rec kitchen is just about finished up now. It's been inspected with the health department. The partitions, as I said, for the gymnasium are coming in. The conference rooms and the council chambers, the panels are being installed today, and they'll continue this week. The punch list, I've requested that Colliers develop a punch list, and we'll get into that a little bit further as we see the punch list. And that's basically it. The parking arrangement is going to change somewhat from what we anticipated. The buses that we were hoping to move off of Garfield Street, the location that we were seeking is not available. So the buses will be coming back to Garfield Street when school opens up. That will mean that the parking for the employees and visitors will shift most likely from the back, or let me just figure this out because it's a little confusing. The parking lot where the police department is located, that will be for police and for bus driver personal vehicles. The parking lot up on Garfield Street to the east of the new town hall and to the south of the library will become a parking lot for the employees. There'll be visitor parking right along Mazzicoli Way, and any auxiliary or overflow parking will be at the OFI Business Center at the east end of Garfield Street. There will be overflow visitor parking as well along Garfield Street. So we're making some changes. The maps have been developed. We'll put that on our website so everybody can see, and all the employees are being advised, including all of the Board of Education employees. So we had to change some things because of the buses and the fact that school is going to open. So it'll be a little inconvenient for the next 6 or 8 months, has to be built, but we think we have enough parking for everybody. So that takes care of the town hall update.
So, Mr. Chapman, I was thinking about this today in my discussions with the registrars of voters, and we have to keep an eye on that gymnasium project, whether that'll be ready for our voting in November or not. And if not, we're gonna have to really think about that, I think.
Yeah, it'll be close, depending on when the delivery is of the bleachers and the results of the state fire marshal's inspection last week. I haven't got the report back yet.
Okay. Counselor Nagel?
Yes, just to note that the primary is being held today, and it's through in the multi-purpose room of Parks and Rec. And having gone and voted in the primary today, I've noticed that it's quite easy to get in and out if you know which door to take. So you can only get a very little look at the new town hall, but at least the public can who wishes to do that. And also, Mr. Chapman, I was wondering, are you going to continue to look for another space for buses, even though the options you have looked at the moment are not available for the beginning of the school year?
Yeah, there are several other options that we'll look at. A lot will depend on what happens with the school opening and closing and so forth. If it remains open for the year and doesn't get interrupted, I think we're going to end up on Garfield Street for most of the school year. But the council certainly will be advised of our progress on finding a permanent location to move the buses for hopefully next year and in the future. But unfortunately, the location that we were optimistic in obtaining, the property owners pulled the plug at the last minute. So we were caught in somewhat of a jam, but OFI on Garfield Street has stepped up and offered to let us use their parking lot for about 50 cars. So that should work out.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Minor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quick, Keith, is that the buses that were on Garfield Street this past school season? So basically using only the westernmost half? Is that what's coming?
I don't know. I've got to sit with the superintendent because of the way in which they're going to operate the buses this year and the COVID-19 relationship. I don't know if more kids or students will be driving themselves to school, which will require more parking space, or the buses that were at the high school will remain at the high school. If there is more students driving themselves because of the COVID-19 concerns, then I believe we're going to have more buses on Garfield than we did last year.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Am I muted? I'm muted.
No, you're
No.
good.
Oh, okay. No, I guess that was actually my question as well. I just wanted to know whether we were still able or going to utilize the parking at the high school at all, because there was a significant controversy over that when it was proposed, and it seems to, a lot of it had to do with the band practice and some other activities, but I was just wondering whether those buses would remain there or not.
And again, it'll depend on how much of the student parking lot they're going to need for the students as well as, what arrangements we're going to make with the contractors doing the demolition. They've indicated that they're open to work with us on some of the areas that they have reserved through the contract to possibly share those areas if we need more space for more buses.
Thank you. Any other council comment or question? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item, which is Code of Ordinances Review, Chapter 43 Fiscal Year. This is an item that was requested for us for consideration of allowing 2 times a year installments for property taxes. I know Ms. Murphy did some work for us, and we had received a chart showing how other towns have handled those things. That it should be in your packet. So there's 3 columns that show the real estate, motor vehicle, and personal property in terms of how other towns do it, 1 installment versus 2, and what their requirements are. So that's there for our review and discussion as well. Councilor Camilla, you have your hand up?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I think we should just leave it the way it is. The way it looks and reads, if I'm not wrong here, but it looks like it's going to cost the town an additional $100,000 to do it this way. So we should leave it the way it is.
Councilor Minor?
Yeah, thank you. I would just question if that is an estimate that she is going off of based on anything, or if it's a, possible perception that there would be, parties that would not pay their second half of their installment, or exactly how she's coming up to that figure.
Janet's
Because
she's on the call if you want her to chime in.
by all means,
Janet, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I got knocked off for a minute or two. I did hear Councilman Minor's question. This is an estimate after talking with several different tax collectors along with my own and the assessor. It is the hardest tax to collect, the motor vehicle. It is our lowest collection rate. There would be a lot of confusion if we go to 2 payments. Some people will change ownership and not want to pay their second half. We wouldn't have the leverage of basically their registration because they wouldn't, if they'd gotten rid of the car, they wouldn't care. And it is in arrears. So all those factors just came up saying, even if it drops 1%, which is a conservative view of it, that would be how much we would lose.
okay, because I was just, knowing that it is in arrears, and I know it's, a very confusing tax to somebody that is not acclimated to it, but it's based on the October 1st grand list. And in addition to that, there is usually supplementals done beyond that pick up the balance of a split year period. Am I correct in that?
You are correct, but say somebody moves out of Newington. Now they really don't care if they're paying their Newington tax because they don't have, and we don't have the registration to hold over the head if they get rid of it during the year.
Right, but the next vehicle they go to register at Newington is still.
If they're not in Newington, it won't matter.
That's not correct. If you go to motor vehicle, regardless of where you're trying to register.
Yeah, but if they've already gotten rid of the car during the tax year, during that split tax year.
Correct. But you would theoretically be able to pick it up on the second half of that when they would either have to show you disposal of it in terms of a date of sale or date the plates were returned to a motor vehicle, or you'd be eligible to get the supplement before they were able to do anything to register anything new. The only concern to bringing this up originally was I believe this is very dated in terms of the thresholds for value. A $400 or $500 value, as the majority of towns are that have split payments, are very dated in the fact that vehicle costs, not to get even into a luxury vehicle, you can have a $1,200 motor vehicle tax with a $35,000 to $40,000 vehicle. So you can have a substantial tax due that might be almost comparable to real estate taxes of a condo in town. And that was my only reason for bringing it up, is trying to spread the burden out of those two payments over a period of the year, that the person, realistically, the person that is going to move out of town or sell a vehicle is not going to be that high end of a vehicle in all reality. And the likelihood of non-collection, I would just question whether or not that was real or not. If there was legitimate data to back it saying you're going to lose 1%, then yes, I'd be the first one to agree, leave it as is. But if we're going based on estimates, I'm just looking at it beyond a personal homeowner in town to commercial fleet owners that have, vehicles that might be in excess of, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Mike, I'm sure you can, agree with that those individuals would also be helped in being able to split this up in their budgetary concerns.
And just to add on how I came up with the estimate, Councilman Minor, because we actually went to discuss with the one town that actually is in two payments. And although they wouldn't tell us what their collection rate was on motor vehicles, they did say that it was at least 1% less than what our current collection rate is.
Okay. So yeah, if it was a matter of being a town or a city, I think might be a correlation to their actual collection rates would be the only thing I would question on that. And again, you're talking about higher dollar vehicles. The lower dollar vehicles, I don't think that problem will ever go away. And I 100% agree with you that the collection rate is very difficult on that. But I would be a little more surprised at somebody's motorhome or RV or commercial truck or, large SUV or any of those vehicles that would bring you up into the threshold of a, real property tax for, let's say a condominium, or personal property tax of, let's say, a backhoe or a payloader, that you're able to split that payment, but you're not able to split the payment of the truck that sits right next to it in the fleet. That's, I think, what I'm coming down to is I just think it's antiquated and just never caught up to itself, because there was never thoughts of having motor vehicle taxes that were, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000.
Deputy Mayor, are you all set, Mr. Minor?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yes, I'm tending to lean towards leaving it as it is, because in terms of it, whether or not it's being antiquated or not, there's 16 towns that Janet surveyed, and they all, except for one of them, have it at one installment. So if we're antiquated, then our surrounding neighbors are as well. And Janet did seem to say, she did talk to them, and she did indicate the difficulties in collection with this. But furthermore, in terms of the number of people that it would impact, in her memo, she says there's like 28,600 motor vehicle assessments in Newington, and only 6,100 are over $500. So that basically is only 21%. And of that 21%, she indicates that 30% of them are payments received from leasing companies. So in the scheme of things, it's not going to be something that's going to benefit the substantial number of residents in Newington. And given the fact that it could be detrimental to our tax collection, I feel that it should be left as it is.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko. Any other council comment? Question? I do not see a resolution in our packet this evening.
This was still just considered a discussion item.
Okay.
Councilor Donahue has his hand raised.
I'm sorry, my mouse was hovering over him. Go ahead, Councilor Donahue.
I felt your mouse hovering over me. Is there, I understand the loss of 100,000, how much extra work, person hours would it be to implement this program?
This is Janet. I put in an estimate there. The total cost would be about $10,000. That would include some additional seasonal help during January, which we typically don't have, along with the mailings, the billings, the sending things out to warrant, and stuff like that.
All right, sorry, I missed that.
That's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Any other questions or comments on this? Counselor Minor, I know you feel strongly about this. Would you like this continued, tabled? How would you like us to proceed on this? There's not a resolution in the packet this evening.
I'd like to see if we could table it for now and just see if we can gain some further information for consideration. But I thank you.
You can be in contact with the Minority Leader, Counselor Anist, and let us know in terms of next agenda item if you still want it on there or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, so for now, we'll table it. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is to introduce bond resolution and set a public hearing date for August 27th, 2020 regarding the Anna Reynolds project. You have in your packet a memo. I'm going to refer to it just to make sure I get all the details correct. So the actions for this evening will consist of, first, we need to formally introduce the bond issue in the amount of $35.5 million. Once the resolution is formally introduced, then it must be tabled with no further discussion on the item until after the public hearing. And then we will set the public hearing date of August 27th, 2020 at 7 p.m. That is the intent for this evening. James, if you're on, is there anything I'm missing regarding this?
No, but I will say that we did receive some updated bond language, and I know Janet is on, so she can address that with you as well. And we do have
Perfect.
it
And
available for on the screen.
I did share that with the entire council via email earlier today so that everyone would have a chance to review the new language that was requested. Councilor Minor, do you want to ask your question first or have Ms. Murphy go ahead and explain some things?
No, Ms. Murphy can go right ahead and I'll wait. Hold my call.
Perfect, thank you. Janet, do you want to go ahead and explain the new language for us?
Sure. So there was concern brought up regarding the amount of reimbursement that we'll get from the state of Connecticut for school construction loans. They have reimbursement rate calculated somewhere in the 50% range to try to basically set our debt at a certain amount. I spoke with the bond attorney this morning, and redid our paperwork resolution with the wording that the total appropriation would still be the 35.5 million, but that we'd only be authorizing up to 50% of the project. I believe it was 17.75 million, and the rest would be financed by reimbursement from the state school construction grant. There was other talk about potentially doing this contingent upon us getting a certain amount, and he didn't think that was the best course of action, since we really won't know the full amount that we get as reimbursement from the project till we get towards the end of the project. He thought this would be the best way if we wanted to secure a certain amount of debt that we were willing to uphold in the bonding language.
Okay, great, thank you, because I know that has been an ongoing question and concern of the council, which is why I'd raised that question, if there was a way to incorporate that wording into the motion. And I thank you for acting so quickly, because I just forwarded that question to you last evening. So thank you for following up on that for us. I'll open it up to council question, and Councilor Minor, you had your hand up first.
Thank you. I agree with proceeding with it as Janet just described. I think it's very important that we address that the state reimbursement funding is necessary to continue to pursue this project, yet it does give us a little bit of flexibility and latitude in terms of sources should there be a shortage. So I agree with it as it's written.
Great, thank you. Counselor Donahue?
Unmute myself. I'm looking at the calendar, and Tuesday, August 27th is not the actual date. The 27th is a Thursday.
Correct. That was a typo. We did intend for it to be Thursday, the 27th. Our regular meeting is on the 25th, which is a Tuesday. We're looking because we would like to make sure that we have enough time for public who may want to weigh in on this. If there is a larger turnout, we wanted to dedicate enough time for it. So we were looking at Thursday, the 27th.
Okay, this of course ties back into a larger public meeting.
This is the one that I think perhaps Counselor Minor was referring to earlier.
As I can sit here in the studio right now and tell you that our conference room or our council chambers is not complete. We don't have any cameras or anything in there. It's currently being used as a storage room, Keith, I believe. This is a few weeks away. Once again, we'll need to certainly coordinate where it would be and how we would get all of the three pieces together.
Mm-hmm. Counselor Minor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one quick question. I'm hoping James is on the line. By statute, what is our requirements to holding the public hearing? If it is held in a public venue, are we required to have it Zoom as well, in addition to call in, or what are our statutory requirements to being able to hold a public hearing? Because I think this is very important to be able to allow the public at large to have their final opportunity to weigh in.
Well, Zoom is only being utilized just because we can't meet in person. There's no necessity that we place it out on Zoom. We do have to make sure that any video that we have is available for the public 24 hours in advance of it based upon the governor's order. But beyond that, there's nothing to say we can't put it out socially. It's the logistics that come into, can we get it directly streamed? Is it going to be replayed later? Will we have a live feed for the public? How much of the public will be allowed in the area? There's those type of logistic issues that we have to think about.
Okay, but the greatest concern is, are we required by statute to stream it live, or can we simply publicize it as a public event in advance and record it for future distribution to, say, let's NCTV, if it becomes too logistically challenging to try to stream it live?
Oh, that's exactly the purpose of the governor's order. If you can't hold in-person meetings directly, and say we didn't have the ability to put it out to NCTV, we are required to make sure it's available within 24 hours of the meeting on our website. So if we don't have the ability, then yes, we put it up. Now, I understand the purpose really is to get the involvement of the public. So we are going to have to look at some of those logistics and how we set those up, especially screens for the public to be able to see the information. Is a counselor going to take questions, comments, chats from the system, those type of things as well?
Okay, but those are not necessarily requirements.
No.
If an in-person meeting, obviously a public display of some type, if there were a physical presentation to be done, but anything beyond that would really be just add-ons, correct?
Correct. And if we look back at what we did for the town hall, we had a large presentation, a conceptual plan that was shown to the public. We spent, I believe, about 2.5 hours receiving comments from the public on it prior to going into our special meeting. So this is a very involved process. So even if we started this at 7 o'clock at night, we've got to think about lighting issues, safety, walking cords across grass or wherever we are. So there's other issues that come into play as well. If we had a large enough venue, say one of the high schools or one of those buildings where we have a large enough area, say with bleachers and whatnot, to be able to allow the public in to socially distance and things of that type, it could work out. Now, that would be a question really for whether or not school being in session at that point would be logistically possible. I don't know if it would be.
Okay.
I believe I did see Maureen on the other side.
Superintendent, I was just gonna say, I wanted to invite her in if she'd like to participate. The superintendent of schools, Dr. Brummett, is on the attendees side of the meeting, I see. So Maureen, if you'd like to participate, feel free to raise your hand and we'll gladly acknowledge you as this discussion is unfolding. Okay, she does have her hand up. Maureen, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
There. Yes, we can. Beautiful.
Awesome. So I think the hearing would be on August 27th.
Yes.
Is that what I heard? Yeah, school would not be in session at that time. Teachers are back, but the kids don't come back till the 31st. So I don't know what kind of space. I know we keep everyone 6 feet apart, but the auditorium has a pretty high capacity. If that would be of help, we would just have to have some sort of parameters around attendees and all of that. But there's capability there.
Okay. I guess my only concern is that while I feel strongly that we want to have as many people, able to be involved as possible, there are a good amount of residents who are still going to not feel comfortable coming to a public forum, no matter what we do. So it's hard to pick one over the other in terms of some of our elderly residents may not feel comfortable enough to come out and speak at a public meeting like that in person. So I'm concerned if we can't do both, about keeping it safe and accessible for everyone.
I think if we kept it at the school, we'd have the technology. We could do it both ways.
We
Counselor
could
Donahue.
set up a Google Meet along with the ability for folks to participate virtually as well as in person. We just have to plan for it.
Okay. Counselor Donahue, you have your hand up, and then Counselor Minor.
I mean, there's what the governor said, and then, what's right for the people of the town, right? We have them in this new model, for their safety, and all of a sudden we're going to say, you know what, on the 27th, it's going to be different. From a technology perspective, Maureen, we're going to have to work with the tech people because, if there's going to be a live component along with a meet component and then a transmit component, we have some work to do. We would need to have, we'll have to talk about it. I don't want to get into the technical details now, but it's going to be a challenge.
Well, let me know if you'd like me to set something up, at least to explore the possibilities. I'm happy to assist.
Yeah, I can try to work it out in the back of my head as to how we would actually accomplish it. We'd have to have some kind of giant monitor for everything. I'll work it out. I'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Minor, you're next.
Thank you. Just to circle back, I think the biggest important to me is that people are allowed the opportunity to weigh in person. Now, be it 6 foot social distancing, be it, the facility is large enough or venue is large enough to accommodate everybody's social distancing. I think the key part is just to go ahead and allow them that opportunity. Participating in both Google Meets as well as Zoom, if you're not acclimated to how to do it, I can tell you firsthand that being on the attendee side is completely different than being on the panelist side. And I had some challenging times trying to get in myself the first couple times. So if we can at least afford the opportunity, and if people choose to call in, I think the simplest means would be just to call in. Just as long as we have a telephone line there to take the calls, that's allowing them the opportunity to participate that way. And those that want to participate in person can do so that way. And I don't think we'd be exceeding the capacity of the gymnasium at the school with just the attendees. So I would at least like to explore that if it's possible. Thank you.
Okay. Any other council comment at this point? Counselor Nagel?
I don't know whether this is an appropriate question or not, but it's not related to what you've just been talking about. According to the resolution suggestion that was presented to us, does that mean that if it is approved by the town and it goes forth, that whether the money comes from the state or not, we as the town are responsible for the 17 point whatever, and whether it goes through or not. I don't know if that's a question that can be answered now or not, but it's one that immediately came to my mind.
Janet, are you there still?
I'm still here. That's just 17 million of debt. So if it doesn't go through, nothing happens. If the resolution, if the referendum fails, it fails. It's a two-part. It's the total appropriation that they have to approve of the 35.5 million. And the second part of it is that we go out to bond for 17.75 million. So
Okay, I just wanted to make certain it is contingent upon their getting the other half, even though it doesn't say that directly within the resolution.
It doesn't say that, but they can't do the project in whole if there's not money coming in from the state.
Okay,
All
but they could
all-
do in part. That's my point.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just thought that should be clear, given what's the acceptable bonding language that has been presented. Thank you.
Correct.
So I do notice, you know, as the discussion is happening, that in the resolution for this evening, which would be introducing the bond resolution, part of the resolution states that we would be holding it through a Zoom webinar software. And so I guess this discussion does need to continue until we decide how we're going to proceed with that, if that's part of the resolution. James, does that have to be included in the resolution, the how of holding the meeting, or just the date and time?
No, we added that in just because we were unsure at the time how the council was going to decide whether we were going to go just the Zoom route or if we could go with an outdoor or a larger indoor venue. So you guys can amend that motion as to how you want to hold that meeting at any point.
I guess my question is, does it have to say how we're holding it in the resolution itself, or just the date and time?
I think at this point in everything, I think we should really state how we're going to do it because the public's going to really want to know. It's not required, but I think notifying the public gives us a little bit more information putting out to the public. It gives them a little bit more advance notice so that they can make sure that they have the required software or the means to be able to attend it either virtually or if we held it in person. You know, maybe we're doing it by phone call-ins as well, but it gives us more options and we've notified more people during the process.
Okay, so additional questions in terms of, I'm thinking of our regular council meetings. So we, even during our regular in-person council meetings, we have a phone line where people can call in. Is that an option when we're doing a Zoom meeting? I know people can call into the Zoom on their phone, but it's pretty complicated. Can we just do a regular phone line and I can put it on speaker and have people participate that way to make it easier for the public to join if they wanted to?
Sure can. Yep, we could add that into the language that gets posted on the website.
Because that may be an easier way to have people participate and be able to do it, you know, kind of the way we used to operate in a way, and a little bit easier for people to understand.
Yeah, we just have to keep in mind, we're going to have that time lag between anybody, if we do it on Zoom and anybody watching on television, they're going to have a lag in between the live meeting and when they call in and when they get the direction to call in as well. So we're going to have to give ourselves extra time in between individuals.
Okay. Councilor Minor?
Thank you. I think the simplest way to do this would be if John's capability at the high school is able to simply stream it live, if that's an option, with a simple telephone call in, like we've always done pre-Zoom calls, and not trying to knock Zoom out of the platform, but a simple dedicated phone line, which I'm sure the high school or wherever, you know, we decide to hold it, public venue has. That should be the simplest way to do it. That you're allowed the call-in option and you're allowed an in-person option and to wait your turn to speak, no different than like we've ever had in any other previous public meeting prior to Zoom.
Okay. Mr. Chapman?
Yes, as I'm sitting here listening, I just want to point out that we're making some assumptions here that the COVID-19 is not going to get any worse than it is right now. If it turns around and becomes a problem as it is in many other states, I really think you're going to be faced with the dilemma of you're not going to be able to have a meeting inside any building. And then what do you do? I don't know. I just have concerns that we're banking on technology and current conditions where nothing is stable right now. And I'm just concerned that, I personally would not want to be in the high school gymnasium or auditorium if COVID-19 takes off again. And I don't know as the public would want to. And I don't want to put into jeopardy any of the NCTV people. And, all I'm saying is if you pass a resolution that says you're going to do whatever you want to do, you have to understand that the whole thing may be blown up and you'll have to cancel everything. So just my thought.
Okay, thank you. That's very valid thoughts. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko, you're next.
Yes, I was wondering if because of the of this situation, can we allow people to write in ahead of time? We publicize it. We definitely allow a write-in option, and we could read it, as if they were in attendance at a meeting. Simply because, again, this is a very unique situation, a unique time in our town history. So if we could offer people a write-in option as part of the ability to participate, and or technically, it's what, like 3 minutes or 4 minutes? I know this is more of a pain in the neck, but we could also, if people are going to know about it, they're going to know about the time, the time of the public hearing, whatever. If we could have sign up time, and if give people each a 5 minute, they can sign up ahead of time for the time that they can come into the council chamber and speak to us one-on-one. I don't know. Those are two possible options.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
I'm in the studio tonight listening to, I'm in my office here talking, and I'm listening to the show, and I can tell responding to James is a good 20-second delay between what we say and what goes out on the air. Just information.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Anist?
Yes, thank you. Hold on, okay. This is too important of an issue just to do it by Zoom. I know people have issues calling in. If there is a way that we can do this live, do this in the high school or wherever, and then if there is an uptick, then revert back to the Zoom platform, that would be fine. But I really think we need to give the public the opportunity to come and speak to us in person, no matter where it is, if they have to line up in the hallway, 6 feet apart. So I think in the resolution, we can make, we can give a couple of different options of how we are going to be handling this. And then as soon as we can figure out what we're doing, put it out there. But this is way too important. We need, like James said, for the town hall reno, we had 2.5 hours of people speaking. And I can't even imagine having half of those people calling in and trying to speak on Zoom. It's going to be a logistic nightmare.
So I'm looking at the timeline that was provided to us by Mike Botello, and the notice of public hearing has to be published no later than August 19th. So that gives us 8 days from today that it has to actually hit the paper, which I'm assuming means we'd have to put it out there a few days before. Are you? I'm sorry.
2 days later. Because if we're moving the public hearing.
Oh, okay. So the 21st. I see what you're saying. Yep. So the memo that we received was predicated by us holding the public hearing on the 25th, and now we're going to the 27th. So that would add 2 days.
Just a point, Mayor.
Yes.
Based upon the executive order of the governor, we are actually able to put our legal notices on our website and bypass the necessity to post in a paper.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
good to know
we,
too.
we do have a little leeway with that. But we still have to follow our normal charter provisions of making sure it's up on the website and then in enough time.
Okay, perfect. That helps. Just because I think we have a lot of kind of hashing out to do in terms of the venue and how we're going to do this. So if it's not required to be in the resolution, the where or the how, just the date and the time, then I would suggest for,
Well, the where is definitely, because we need to determine the location we're going to be at when we notify. The time is as well, but how we hold it is another question. We do have to have a location planned.
the
Now
pause button just got pushed. I'm sorry.
Now you could propose multiple locations based upon review by staff to allow us to decide.
Okay, so in reading that portion of the resolution where it says resolved that the town council of the town of Newington hereby schedules a public hearing to be held through the use of Zoom webinar software in Newington, Connecticut. If we're not doing Zoom, or if we're doing Zoom and a venue, we would have to put the venue in there as well.
Right, if we were going to do it at the high school, we'd have to give the address for that location. Just like we hold our public hearings and we advertise it as 131 Cedar Street and the time that it's going to take place. We don't say for that it's going to be in person or by Zoom normally. But if we are going to be holding it in person, we do need to inform them of what that location is.
Okay. I just don't know how we're going to nail that down this evening in terms of making this resolution happen. I'm just, logistically, I don't think we know for sure what that's going to look like if we wanted to do the high school, whether that's really viable or not, given some of the questions posed this evening. So, I'm a bit concerned about that. I still say we could do the Zoom webinar and then have a call in line, which I know isn't in person, so to speak, but it still is our old protocol in place as well. I mean, I sit here, I have a speaker phone on my desk that you certainly all would be able to hear, and the person could identify themselves the way they normally would. It would take away the Zoom piece of it for people trying to figure out the Zoom application, and they'd still be able to phone in if we're streaming live. They would be able to, like you said, there'd be a delay. We'd have to account for that, but at least that would give us an option. I just don't know that we can hammer out the rest of this without having some more discussion. Counselor Minor, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Is Dr. Brummett still on?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Maureen, what is the capacity of the gymnasium in terms of seating, and what is the capacity of the auditorium? I think either of those two venues, I don't know.
The auditorium has about an 800 people capacity. The gymnasium, I'd have to get back to you because it would be, well, in a situation like this, we'd probably have folding chairs, but I would have to get back to you on the capacity of the gymnasium. But the auditorium, I do know, is 800.
Okay, so 800, if you went 50% capacity, you'd still be at 400. Even if you went, 25% your capacity at 200. I think that would give you enough social distancing to allow the opportunity for in-person. It would give you your 6-foot social distancing. You'd still have opportunity if anybody was beyond that to go out into the hallway and space out. I don't think it would be that heavily attended, but at least to allow the opportunity for the public to weigh in person, I think is critical to the success of the presentation on this project. It's just too large of a consideration. And there's going to be too many questions that really should be answered in advance in a public setting, prior to. And again, if someone doesn't feel comfortable participating, they'll be able to hopefully be able to view it or at least listen to it and participate that way. And I do agree with Deputy Mayor Petracco that a write-in option, I think, is also important for maybe our elders in town that might not want to participate otherwise, but feel comfortable in writing. So I would at least like to offer that for consideration and see what the other counselors' opinions are.
Okay, Counselor Nagel.
I think we need to keep in mind what Mr. Chapman said earlier about the COVID and the changing and having things inside or not having them inside. And also, since I am one of those elders, though I don't like to think of myself as being one, there is that question for many people about holding things inside or outside and the responsibility that one has and how far a dedication should go to being inside a building and having that risk taking. And then you have to also account for how are you, for those of us on the council, for whatever reasons, feel it's uncomfortable or for health reasons not appropriate to be inside a building. How are you going to handle that as well, with their not being there and still wanting to hear the public, obviously?
Very good point. Okay, so I guess I'm going to try to wrap this up a little bit. It sounds like we are in agreement with, I mean, the real issue is the the resolution itself, which is the bond language. Now that the resolution on the screen would stay the same despite the change in the language that we were provided with. James or Janet?
Which one are you talking about? The draft bond language that you proposed to go to public
So
hearing?
the resolution that's on the screen right now, there's no
Okay.
change needed to that based on the new language that we had received?
Not to this, other than our Zoom statement. If it's
Okay.
to go public in person.
Yep, okay.
Everything else is the standard language. Now, your section 2 has changed. So the determination is, are you going with the revised language or are you going with the original language that was provided to the council?
It sounded to me like revised language, but I'm gonna ask, I'll do a show of hands. It's kind of a consensus, but it's hard to do a consensus on a Zoom when not everybody has their screen on. So counselors, if you would like the revised language to move forward this evening, could you raise your hand in that window? Oh, I see you, Gail. Counselor Minor, Counselor Anist, Counselor Donahue. Yeah, okay, so the consensus is definitely that we're gonna go ahead with the revised language. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I just lost all of you guys on my screen. Hold on one second, technical issues. All right, there you are.
So that would, section 2, that would be that change that we talked about.
Okay.
Other than
And
that.
so now we need to nail down what we're going to put under that Zoom piece. So Dr. Brummett, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
And are you confident, or do you need to check and see in terms of using one of those venues because school's not open yet, and how you're feeling about that?
Yeah, we can. And I do concur with what the town manager did say, that if COVID rates start to go up again, that we would not want to have an in-person meeting. But again, what your language requires, I'm not sure, but it's a possibility if the health considerations allow for it.
Okay. So James, I'm going to defer to you on that. If we were to pass a resolution saying we're going to meet in person and then we don't, are we in trouble? What would have to happen?
I would say in that case, I would pass it with backup language. So a meeting to be held in person at the Newington High School with the backup of utilizing Zoom software in the event of a COVID increase.
Okay.
That way we cover ourselves. We've given the location and time already. And if something does happen, we do have the ability, and we've already notified the public that we'll be utilizing a second venue.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Camillo?
Before we consider all this, we should talk to Charlie Brown and see if he recommends it at all. Keith had a good point there before. Talk right to the health department, the health district, and let them tell us if it's feasible.
If you want, I'll read you exactly what he sent me at my request yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, dealing with meetings, if a meeting can be conducted via technology without personal interaction, that is the safest way to do business. If you need to have a face-to-face meeting, masks, social distancing and limiting group sizes should be considered, as well as the potential to do outdoor meetings. So that was his response to what I had asked about having a big meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Minor?
Yeah, I think that I would agree with Dr. Brummett and town manager that if we do see a spike in cases with threshold that, is in excess of what the health director feels is safe, that we go to a Zoom platform. However, I believe the venue is large enough to socially distance 6 feet apart without any issue, and to have masks on when they're in, unless they're speaking, I think is at least an option that should be afforded the public to making such an important decision before they actually go to the voting booth on. I think information dissemination is critical to getting this out to a positive conclusion. So I would offer that. I only had one other question, and this goes back to Janet. Have we seen specific referendum language that allows for the splitting of the 17 million versus 35 million on how it's worded in the actual referendum language, or that hasn't been generated yet?
No, that language has been generated, the correction draft, I'll call it, with that split out. I did send that to James and to Beth and Keith today.
Yeah, I forwarded it out to everyone, and I had texted the majority leader and my caucus to let everybody know that they needed to check that before the meeting. I apologize. I didn't see it until about 4 o'clock today. That's when I forwarded it out.
I forwarded it to my people as well.
That's all I've got.
Yep. It is, I don't know. Yeah, it's on the screen now, so you can take a peek there. Essentially that, you'll see that the first paragraph of the resolution, it originally said resolution authorizing an appropriation of 35.5 million for the Anna Reynolds Elementary School renovation project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed, it originally read 35.5, the new language states 17.75, and the use of grants and such other sources of funds. That was the change made, as well as establishing a date for the referendum. So that was the big change, was just that we're only going to allow the appropriating of bonds up to 17.5 in anticipation of at least a 50% reimbursement rate. Councilor Donahue?
James, isn't there a executive order 7QQQ or whatever that limits the number of people that can be in an inside meeting?
There is. While you guys talk, I will pull that up and take a look and see what I can tell you.
I thought maximum for an indoor gathering was 100 people.
I believe it is, but he may have changed that. But let me do a little research for you and I'll get right back to you.
Okay, thank you.
My other concern, honestly, is that, and I don't expect people to say it now because I'm not going to call people out like that, but I do believe there may be a few counselors that are not comfortable meeting in person, and I don't want to put counselors at risk or feeling uncomfortable, or even staff members who may not want to meet in person. So that's my other concern with that. Okay, Councilor Minor.
Well, then go back to the original consideration we had, which would be outdoor and hope for the best that the weather cooperates. I just think it's too important to not allow for an in-person public presentation, because you're going to go ahead and bring this through at the end of August, and you're going to expect your electorate to make a decision on it in November, and they need to have information. And that is the purpose of a public hearing, is to allow that information to be disseminated to the public, to allow them to weigh in. And I think without allowing that in person, it's just going to create a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation, and a lot of angst that doesn't need to occur. If we're not comfortable indoors, I mean, the grocery stores, I completely understand the concerns of safety. However, I feel you should be allowed and afforded the opportunity, should you choose to in person to attend, that you can. And if you don't feel comfortable to attend, by all means, please don't. Nobody's asking to put anybody at risk. But I think that should be at least an opportunity to the public. I think it's too important of a decision to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ennis?
When do we have to vote on this? The September 3rd, James? Oh, he's looking at something.
We need to make sure the council adopts it no later than September 3rd. And then I believe it's 10 days to get it to the Secretary of State's office for certification for the November election. And that is actually in Mike's timetable.
I only have it, the public hearing, and that's the only page I have. Goes through the public hearing. I mean, another option would be if we could only hold 100, possibly doing 2 public hearings and let people sign up, one or the other. I agree. I think this is way too important. And, you know, for the counselors or staff members who might be concerned about attending, you know, they can watch it on Zoom if they opt to. But I'm really concerned that people are going to shy away from voicing their opinions if they have to do it on Zoom.
Okay, so I guess I would propose, because I think we're getting to the point of beating a dead horse. No offense, but you know, we can go round and round all evening. It sounds like there are strong feelings both ways. So if we can hammer out some language that would allow us to state that we will attempt to hold it at Newington High School in person for those that are comfortable. And we will also offer Zoom at the same time so that people that are not comfortable can participate by Zoom, or if quite frankly, the town manager is our safety officer. So it would be up to him when the date gets closer to determine, in conjunction with Charlie Brown from Central Connecticut Health District, whether or not we proceed in the in-person format or whether we would go to a strictly Zoom. So I would propose that we revise the resolution language to read, I'm going to try to hammer it out. Resolve that the town Newington, at that, I'm just reading that one paragraph, resolve that the town council of the town of Newington hereby schedules a public hearing to be held through the use of Zoom webinar software. Hold on. Schedules a public hearing to be held at Newington High School and via the use of Zoom webinar software. I'm trying to think of how to add the caveat. At Newington High School, dependent upon the public safety officer determining that it's safe during COVID. Somebody help me here with wordsmithing.
I can't even see it.
It's that paragraph that says the resolved right there. Yep. So we need to add somehow a caveat so that if we get to a point where it's deemed unsafe, that we would go straight to just Zoom, essentially. So we'll be holding it at Newington High School if deemed safe by our public safety officer, as well as via Zoom. If deemed unsafe, we would move to a strictly Zoom webinar meeting. Does that sound right?
That's good.
That works.
Mr. Chapman, are you in agreement with that? Public safety officer?
Public Safety Director.
Director, thank you. I know you don't like the idea of an in-person. I know that.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, this is your show, not mine. I just think that, you know, we need to listen to what our health director is advising. You may as well not have a health director if you're not going to listen to him.
Town is using Microsoft, they should use.
So we can put the language in that we will consider holding it at Newington High School
We'll do it.
as well as via Zoom, dependent upon the whether or not it's deemed safe during COVID by our public safety director in conjunction with our CCHD representative. Okay, so someone's got to read this resolution into the record.
Mayor, just a moment. I just want to address Councilor Donahue's question. Executive Order 7T, which was approved on May 29th, limited the maximum amount of people in an indoor space to 100. Outdoor is to 150.
So, you know, you can only have 100 total, adequately spaced. So if the capacity of the room, when we look at the size of the space and how we would have to space people out, is less than 100, then we would have to just cycle people in and only allow people to come in up to that capacity. I mean, we just have to be smart about it. I mean, smart to me is Zoom, but I'm trying to accommodate everyone here. And I know that there's a strong sense of people feeling that an in-person component is necessary. So, you know, we can certainly try that and see where we stand come August 27th. Councilor Minor?
Yeah, just one add-on to consider putting a threshold in there. So if the COVID rates were to be in excess of whatever they feel comfortable with, 1.5%, we're at 0.6 now. We've been holding at 0.6 for several weeks. If, you know, it essentially doubles, then we go to plan B. I'd rather see it thresholded than just being kind of open.
I guess I'm concerned with the fact that I'm not an expert and don't know what the appropriate threshold would be. So I would default, I don't know, the language that leaves it up to Keith in conjunction with the Central Connecticut Health District, I think makes sense. They would be the ones to deem what's appropriate, I guess, but that's just
fine.
my thought.
I agree. That's fine.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? All right. Any chance anybody is willing to read this resolution in? Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
No, I just have the resolution that's on my screen.
Mhm.
It's not the one, I don't think it's the most current one. I'm not.
Well, it's certainly not the one that Beth just read. Or
Yeah, but it still references the $35 million of bonding.
Right. That's not the current one.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to read it in the fine print.
That is correct. You would need to amend the 35.5 because we did not have an update to that cover sheet, as well as the language for where it would be held.
So that first line would have to read 17,750. Correct?
Well, not the first one. The first line is still okay, the 35.5, but then the bonding is 7.
Oh, right. You're right. Yep. That second 35.5 would change to 17.75. And then the resolved that the town council of the town of Newington hereby schedules a public hearing to be held at Newington High School and via the use of Zoom webinar software in Newington, Connecticut on Thursday, August 27th at 7 p.m. to hear comments on the foregoing resolution. The public safety officer in conjunction with Central Connecticut Health District will determine if it is safe to hold the meeting at Newington High School. If not, we will revert to Zoom webinar only.
Director.
Did I say officer again?
Yes.
I apologize. All right.
You want me to try to go for it?
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Resolution authorizing appropriation of $35.5 million for the Anne Reynolds Elementary School renovation project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed 17.5 million, 17.75 million, as well as establishing a date for referendum. Resolved that the Newington Town Council, resolved that the Town Council of Town of Newington hereby schedules a public hearing to be held through, yeah, my Zoom just dropped, to be held at Newington High School or webinar software in Newington, Connecticut on Thursday, August 27th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to hear comments on the foregoing resolution. In the event the meeting is to be confirmed by the Public Safety Director as well as the Central Connecticut Health District, the meeting will revert back to webinar only through Zoom. Be it further resolved that the Town Council post and publish notice of the time, place, and purpose of said public hearing, along with the foregoing resolution in full in accordance with the provisions of Section 406 of the Town Charter.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Anist. Further discussion. James, does that meet the criteria as far as you're concerned?
Yes, based upon what the secretary will write up, I'll utilize that language in the legal notice that will go on the website.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Pacheco, your hand is up. I'm not sure if that's new or old.
Old.
Okay. I don't see any other counselor raising their hand, so we will go ahead with a roll call vote on this, please.
Counselor Anist,
Yes.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budraco,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono,
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Menke absent. James, are we all set on this agenda item? Did we cover everything?
Yes, we did, except for the council just stating that we're going to utilize the revised bond language that wasn't included in the packet originally.
Would you like a motion for that?
No, just acknowledgement.
Okay, yeah, I had everyone raise their hand in the attendees window earlier. Everyone was in agreement that we would go with the revised bond language.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are on to new business, the first of which is Tropical Storm Isaias update. I had asked the town manager to provide us with an update on where we stand. Certainly, we had a lot of residents out of power. As we know, I was one of them. I know a lot of you were as well. It took a long time to get Eversource involved and kind of get things going. It seems like we're, I know as of last night, we had about 10 residents still out. It was primarily one street. So I'm wondering if Mr. Chapman, if you would go ahead and give us another update.
Yes, at this moment, it's my understanding that all residents have power again. There still are some wires down. Some of the traffic signals, I believe, are still out or could be repaired by now. But what we have is a situation where we have a lot of tree work to be done, a lot of removal of debris alongside the road. So what we're doing for the public's edification is we're following the same schedule this week and next week is for picking up the debris as we have for the trash. So if your trash is a Wednesday pickup tomorrow, then you will have the opportunity to have your debris picked up this Wednesday or next Wednesday. Now, Monday, Tuesday, they've already had their first pickup. So we're going to pick it up this week and next week, and then we're going to end it. Anything that's not out there by the end of their pickup day next week will not be picked up by the town. They will have to take it to the transfer station themselves. So we want to end this pickup program at the end of next week. So you have 10 or 12 days to get everything out there. And once we go by the second time, though, we're not coming back. So everybody should understand that the transfer station is open every day, 7 days a week. We will have our crews working as we did last weekend. They will be working this weekend as well. But come the following Friday, that'll be it. We have major debris out there that's going to be taking up a lot of room in the transfer station. And we're supposed to submit by tomorrow afternoon our estimate of cost of all the departments to the state to be submitted by the governor to the president, I guess, or whoever, however this is getting funded through FEMA. So we're going to be doing a lot of estimating because we don't know what is down in people's backyards at this point, but it's all got to be estimated as to the total cost that we're going to incur, including labor, equipment, and disposal of all this material that's going into the transfer station. So as most everybody in the whole state is, we are very frustrated with what's taking place with slow response from Eversource. And I'm not sure why that happened. I'm not going to point fingers, but I would hope that this would be a learning experience that it never happens again. We're just lucky that the heat wave kind of took a break over the last couple of days. Now everybody has power back, so they have the air conditioning. But if this had happened in the winter, we would have been in big trouble.
Mhm.
So we're going to move forward. We have all the parks employees and the highway employees working together. I did authorize, if need be, to bring in contractors at this point. Both departments are saying they're not going to need them. So I'm going to hopefully have that continue for the next week and a half. But if we need to increase, then we will with private contractors.
Okay, great. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Yeah, I just want to say in my entire neighborhood, everybody was out over the weekend and all the significant amount of debris was moved to the street, and our trash pickup was today, and there was absolutely nothing. There was no trucks, nothing done. So I don't know whether another week is going to be really doable.
Let me preface this a little bit by saying that there are certain portions of the town that were barely hit at all. So we'll say the Friday or Thursday or Wednesday pickup routes are very light. We're going to continue on your route, we'll say, the Tuesday route into Wednesday to get what we can. But we think that it'll balance off over the next 2 weeks where everything will get picked up, but we need to have everything out to the curb. So we will pick it up over the next 2 weeks or the next 12 days, if in fact it's out there. But once next Friday comes along, that'll be it. So if you have debris after that, you'll have to take it to the transfer station or make arrangements to have somebody take it for you.
Okay, so, but everybody, if they have it out now, they should be okay.
Yeah, if it's out there now, it will get picked up, yes.
Okay. And also, I just want to just give some kudos out to our police department, the fire department, highway department, parks and grounds. I mean, the emergency, their rapid response. I mean, I heard sirens going all, when was it, last Tuesday? Was it a week ago? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy moly. They really did an excellent job. And, you know, I do see cleanup going on around town. Not yet in my neighborhood, but I know they're out there working hard, and we're really fortunate, I think, because Newington got slammed. Newington got slammed harder than we did in years. And our town staff and emergency response, and again, like I said, the highway and Parks and Grounds have been doing a great job. And also the fact that, you know, you set up the charging station for people who needed it at the library. I mean, that's a small thing, but yet it was significant. So I want to thank everybody who was involved in the planning.
Let me just say that, you know, this is an example that separates Newington from most other towns. All of our public safety and public works people have done a tremendous job. And they continue, and it's not easy, and it's been hot out there, but these guys haven't slowed down, and they're working from 7 till 5 every day, including the weekend. So I give them a lot of credit for what they're doing, and it just shows that we have a professional team of police, fire, ambulance, public works. You know, it's really good.
Absolutely. Thank you. Counselor Minor?
Sorry, couldn't come off fast enough. Yeah, I'd also like to echo what Councilor Bedrejko said. Kudos to all the emergency service town staff for doing a great job on the cleanup to date, as well as the ongoing efforts to clean up the rest of the town. The one thing I had a question for you, Keith, and I don't know if you know the answer, is do we still have the same protocol in place in terms of having a town liaison directly reporting to us, or did that go by the wayside?
That went by the wayside, and I guess virtually every town had the same issue. We ended up getting a call, I think it was on Sunday night. Chris Schroeder got a call from somebody from the state that somebody else was the liaison for our town, but our original liaison that we were assigned 6 months ago or whatever, a year ago, disappeared. And I think for whatever reason that happened in virtually every town that was impacted. And again, I think they have to learn from this and never let this happen again. But I'm sure we'll have a debriefing at some point with the state. And it'll be one of those long Zoom meetings because there's a lot of people upset right now. And we were lucky, like I said, this was not during the winter.
No, no question about it. But I think the emphasis of having a liaison was meant to be able to have one point of contact for the utility and be able to have that person familiar with the town. That was at least the purpose after Superstorm Sandy when they went to this protocol. And the problem is when you've got out-of-state contractors coming in, the biggest thing that I heard, and I had multiple commercial properties that we take care of out, and the continuous complaint I heard was crews not being able to be assigned work fast enough. And they were sitting more than they were working just because they didn't have that intermediate point that was directing the town by town. So that would be the only thing that I would emphasize when you do have your debrief, that's critical for the future. Thank you.
If I may say one other thing, just so everyone knows and understands that our crews could not touch any trees or branches that had wires entangled within them. You know, things look like there's no power and everything is safe, but until it's confirmed by the electric company that it is dead, we couldn't move trees and we couldn't move branches. We would have liked to, but we just couldn't take that chance. So Main Street, for an example, was blocked for a number of days, which really made it inconvenient for many people. But we just couldn't. And in fact, I was there when it was confirmed that the wires that we thought were dead were in fact live with 23,000 volts. So it burned a hole in Main Street. It was so powerful. So if anyone thinks our guys were sitting around doing nothing, in some cases they were waiting for Eversource people to show up that we were promised that didn't get there until much later. So, but we did the best we could. All streets are now open, so.
Thank you.
Keith, do you know, did Constance Lee get the light running yet, or is that still out?
I believe it was activated around 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh, wonderful, good. Because that intersection, I was so concerned that was out for so long. And I know that wasn't us. I will say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of our town crews, our EMS, fire, police. You know, I live on Walsh Avenue, which is right near the center of town. And I can't tell you how many vehicles I saw going up and down Walsh Ave every day. So I have no question as to how hard our guys were working, guys and gals. Everybody was out there from the second the storm hit. Like you mentioned, Gail, the sirens around town. I mean, they were just going nonstop. And like I said, I saw them up and down my street. I'm right by Company 1 as well. So I know our crews were out there. I think the disappointing factor for me with Eversource was that it sounded like a lot of lip service the first few days. I think once they hit the ground well, and their crews got out in full force, but it took a couple to 3 days to really see that response that I think we needed earlier. So I think that would be my concern to share, would be that they need to be ready to hit the ground and not be waiting 2-3 days before it really happens.
The other thing I would just mention, and it's near where you live, Mayor, is that during this hurricane damage that we incurred, we also had a evacuation of a number of blocks around Main Street and Robbins Avenue because of a Connecticut natural gas leak that resulted from a tree or a branch breaking a gas line going to a house and then trying to find the shut off with all the debris. It took a long time. So an evacuation took place. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. So that was probably the major incident that was a result of trees falling and so forth that had to be handled by the fire department and police department.
And I will tell you, the response by our fire and police was tremendous. Right up behind my house, you're right. Any other questions for the town manager on this item? All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. And, let me back up. Thank you, Mr. Chapman, for your leadership during the storm because, our town crews did what they did because you were at the helm helping direct that and getting the cooling station open and making sure that our residents' needs were met. And I know I did get a lot of resident, I won't say complaints, but concerns or questions from residents that I continually forwarded to you. I'll be sure and forward that to our town manager was my pretty standard response because you were the one that had all that information. So thank you for fielding all of that for us throughout.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is FFY 2020 Homeland Security Grant Program. And let's see. This is the State Homeland Security Grant. I believe this is the one that we do. Is this the one we do every year, Mr. Chapman?
Yes, I believe it is. I don't know if Chris Schroeder is on with us. I was hoping that he would be able to respond to any questions you have on this particular, because I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
Is he on?
I don't see him. Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see him on my side.
he just unmuted himself. Are you there, Chris?
Oh, I see him now. Chris, are you there, Chris Schroeder? Chief?
Right. Well, this is an annual grant that we apply for, and it's for state homeland security. I think it's self-explanatory, but for whatever reason, Chris is incapable of speaking tonight, unfortunately.
It's okay. We have the memorandum agreement in front of us. I'll just read a little bit out of the memo. So it basically states that the agreement is proposed to use federal Homeland Security grant funds to support 8 regional set-aside projects. The total amount of funds being retained on behalf of local governments is $1,654,801 that will benefit the following projects. The projects include regional collaboration, enhancing information and intelligence sharing and cooperation with federal agencies, including DHS, addressing emergent threats, capital metropolitan medical response systems, MMRS, medical preparation and response in cybersecurity, citizen core program, enhancing cybersecurity and enhancing protection of soft targets and crowded places. The purpose of the agreement is to authorize the state administrative agency to act as an agent for the town and to retain and administer the grant funds. The Capital Region Council of Governments, CROG, will provide financial and programmatic oversight supporting the uses of the funds under the Homeland Security Grant Program. I think that about sums it up in terms of what we're looking at. This is new business for us. Attached is the memorandum of agreement with some more information for us to review. The memorandum of agreement, as you mentioned, this is something that we do on a regular basis to try and secure funds and to be part of this cooperative effort. So we can, Chris Schroeder, are you there? I'm not sure if you're still there, if you have your microphone working yet.
He just dropped off, Mayor. I'm not sure if he's trying to get back in or he was having an issue.
Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory. As I mentioned, this is, I think, standard operating procedure for us that we do every year. And this will be moved to old business for consideration in action at our next council meeting. If there's any council questions, we can say them now and perhaps Mr. Schroeder can get back to us for our next meeting also. So I'll open up the floor for discussion or questions. Okay, I don't see any hands up, so I think we should be good. Then we'll move this to our next agenda for consideration of action on it. In the meantime, if anybody has any questions, feel free to email. Keith, would it be appropriate to email you and you could forward them to Mr. Schroeder?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Sure.
Okay. All right, guys?
Mhm.
Okay. Perfect. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Anna Reynolds Elementary School I'm trying to move this. Public Building Committee Owners Project Representative Services. It says that a waiver is requested, which I did not realize that wasn't in our original packet, I don't believe.
It was actually part of the resolution. I missed putting that on the agenda itself.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry, I just lost my place in the packet here. I've got it all spread over the desk, so I'm just finding my spot. So the Anna Reynolds Elementary School Public Building Committee at their meeting on August 5th approved the recommendation to the town council to appoint and name Colliers International project leaders as the town's owners project representative based on their proposal of March 27th. Essentially, the proposal was a fee schedule with a pre-referendum phase not to exceed the cost of $43,732. The committee is also requesting that the town council authorize Keith Chapman, our town manager, to enter into a contract with Colliers International project leaders for owners project representative services. I'll open it up for discussion. Councilor Donahue?
I'm just looking at the timeline here where, they're going to start looking. Are we going to see a complete set of plans before we vote on this?
Is Maureen still on?
Yes, I am.
Can you respond to that?
So what the role of Colliers is not to do architectural plans. They are to help this, what the council would approve in this motion is allowing them to help do more pre-referendum work between now and November. So you won't see a full set of drawings at this time. That wouldn't happen until after the referendum hopefully gets approved and then an architect is brought on board.
Didn't we, I wasn't here for this, but didn't we do this with the town hall?
Yeah, I know that some of us were concerned that some of the issues with town hall project was that we didn't have specific enough plans in the beginning to make sure that we were, on budget and making sure we had what we needed moving forward. So I think that was a concern at the time. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yeah, well, one of the issues that we had with the Colliers contract, I know, well, the contract is between Keith Chapman and Colliers. So who would Colliers be reporting to? The town manager, the Anna Reynolds Building Committee, the Board of Ed?
It would be to the committee.
To the Anna Reynolds Building Committee?
That's what I understand, yes.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a valid question, Gail. I know we've had Colliers on board for the town hall project, and initially the former town manager had said that they reported to the council and to her and not to the committee. So that was a point of confusion on the previous project. So I think it definitely makes sense to clarify that going into it.
Right. And then the role of Colliers is, Dr. Brummett, is at this point is kind of informational and getting the word out to the public as to what this this project is, because there's been some discussion on the role of, and Colliers was brought in, I'll say, halfway through the town hall project. They weren't there from the beginning, but there have been some concerns that maybe the value added questioning the value added of bringing them on, but maybe it was the point in time where they were brought on. But I'm assuming that you've been satisfied with the work so far?
Yes, they have been on point for all issues. And yeah, their role right now is pretty limited. They've done phase one, which is get us to the grant application phase. That was completed in June. And now moving forward, they have been giving us advice about how to promote the project, how to, put the salient points before, the public at large. So in fact, the money that is discussed, the town council already appropriated, and Colliers doesn't think they will even spend that much because the time is running quite short as to how long we can actually promote the project. So yes, I'm highly satisfied with Colliers. They've been nothing but top drawer in anything they've done for this project.
Thank you.
Counselor Minor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, there was a phase one and a phase two of the original proposal that Colliers presented. Phase one was to get us through to the grant process. Phase two is pre-referendum from now until the referendum period. It's all based on a time materials basis. And as Dr. Brummett alluded to, it's been brought up at our last meeting that they didn't anticipate spending everything that they had budgeted in advance. And as far as their value to be brought in this early in the project is an extreme value to the town because they're going through their construction budgeting cycles to make sure that the numbers that are presented, they currently have a contractor that is involved reviewing all of the information related to the mechanical, electrical, plumbing components, as well as structural for the building to make sure that we have all our information set, ready to go in advance to be able to be considered as a renovate as new project. So there is without question value to having them involved as an owner's project manager this early in the project, almost ahead of anybody being decided in terms of construction management or architecture. Going back to what John had questioned, is accurate in his statement that unfortunately the process that we hold is we cannot go out and procure architectural services to build a project that could theoretically be, $1.5 million to $2 million in architectural services for a project that may never come to fruition. So the procedure to get there could be considered flawed in the standpoint that we don't have solid numbers. The reference of the town hall project to the Anna Reynolds project, the difference being Anna Reynolds is a straightforward renovate as new. So the OPM is very familiar with this type of project and they cost per square foot to do it. And they're very confident in their construction pricing to date.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Camilla, you had your hand up. Did you take it down? Okay. All right. Any further council discussion on this item? We do have a resolution in our packet, and a waiver is being requested. Is that correct? Ms. Brummett, you need this action tonight?
I believe we would like it tonight to move forward as quickly as possible because time is running short. So I believe that's why James and I discussed a possible waiver.
Okay. All right, James, I'm going to need you to chime in and help me again because I always forget the process with waivers. I know we have to do public participation somewhere in the mix, so help me out.
You're going to approve the waiver language at the top. You're going to move the motion, and then you'll take public participation prior to your vote.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I am looking for a counselor who is willing to read into the record the motion for waiver.
I can do it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with the Town Council Rules of Procedure, Section 11 voting, adopted February 11, 2020, hereby moves to allow action on new business agenda item 8C to appoint an owner's project manager for the Anna Reynolds Elementary School renovation.
there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Further discussion on this item on the waiver? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Counselor Annis,
Yes.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budraco,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono,
Yes.
8-0.
All right, thank you. Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Menke absent. Next, we need to read into the record the actual motion. So Deputy Mayor Budraco, would you like to continue on?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby names Colliers International project leaders as the town's owner project representative for the Anna Reynolds Elementary School renovation project based on their proposal of March 27, 2020, and their proposed fee schedule with a pre-referendum phase not to exceed cost of $43,732. And be it further resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes Keith Chapman, Town Manager, to enter into a contract with Colliers International project leaders for owners project representative services.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion on this motion? Prior to voting, I will go to public participation. I don't see any council hands up. So I will open it up to public participation. I'm clicking over to our attendees window. Anyone in the public that would like to be recognized, please use the raise hand function in the participant window or do *9 in order to be recognized. We'll just give it a moment. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand. I'll open it up for council comment one more time before we vote. Okay, I'll just say that it's not a common practice to waive the rules, and I don't often like to do that just because I like to afford people the opportunity to know that we typically do business by introducing it 1 week and our next meeting voting on it. But I will say, as the discussion earlier mentioned, having Colliers on board earlier is certainly better, and putting this off doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of the logistics of getting them on board and having them in the process earlier on than we did in the town hall project. Hopefully that will be helpful. So that is why I'm okay with going ahead with this motion this evening. Councilor Minor, are you okay? You had your hand up, it went away.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll go to roll call vote then.
Counselor Annis,
Yes.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budraco,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono,
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Menke absent. Next item on our agenda is resignations or appointments. Do we have any? I know we don't on our side. Counselor Annis, do you have any?
No, I do not.
Okay, we will move on to tax refunds. We have in our packet this evening a memo for approval of August 11th, 2020 refunds for an overpayment of taxes. Deputy Mayor Budraco, would you read that, please?
Resolved that property tax refunds in the amount of $62,211.51 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the request for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion on this? You will note the amount is a bit excessive this week. It's much larger than typical, but the majority of this is due to the lease company reconciliations, I believe. Okay, I don't see anyone's hands up, so we'll go to roll call vote, please.
Counselor Annis,
Yes.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budraco,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono,
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Menke absent. Next item on our agenda is minutes of previous meetings. I'm looking for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from July 14th, 2020 and July 28th, 2020. Would someone please make a motion to accept those minutes?
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Who was
Counselor
it?
Nagel, you have your hand up. Go ahead, Counselor Nagel.
So moved that we accept minutes for both meetings on the 14th and the 28th.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Braverman. Any discussion on these items? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Anist,
Yes.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Pedrego,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Piano.
Yes.
8-0.
Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Menke absent. We'll move on to written and oral communications from the town manager. Mr. Chapman, do you have anything for us?
Just a reminder again of the MDC hazardous waste collection will be held this Saturday at our transfer station. Some of the requirements this year will be it's limited to one person per vehicle. You must remain in your vehicle at all times. Keep your windows rolled up. Be ready to place driver's license against the window for proof of residency. Place only the waste items you want removed in the trunk of your vehicle. Remove all other items. Workers will remove the contents and will be in full safety gear. Fuel containers will not be emptied and returned. So if you have any hazardous waste that you want to dispose of as an MDC member town, you may bring it to our transfer station this Saturday, and MDC staff will take it. And there'll be a number of these going on throughout the whole summer in different member towns. So if you miss this one on Saturday, you can catch another one in West Hartford or Bloomfield or Windsor, depending on the schedule.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on. Next item is council liaison or committee reports. Counselor Nagel.
Yes, thank you. The library board had a special meeting last night, and one of the primary reasons for it was to officially decide whether they were going to cancel their 5K race, which usually is not in the fall, but they moved it to fall because of COVID. They decided to cancel it for this year, hope to resume it next year. In its place, they are doing a charity fundraiser event called Ready, Set, Go. And it will, the details for it will be through various different venues. It will involve drawings, which will be done October 5th. Everything will be done virtually in giving in mind the COVID procedures as of that date. So there's more to come on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Donahue.
Thank you. We've had a couple meetings for the Mill Pond Public Building Committee. The one last night, it looks like the committee is not in favor of the indoor facility, so we will be concentrating on the outdoor facility. The whole master plan of the park. TLB Architects is supposed to come back to us with some updated pricing and a better plot plan. There's some issue with an MDC sewer line where the pool will have to move over 6 to 8 feet, to the west, Beth. The next meeting is scheduled for the 14th of September at 6 o'clock. We realize that puts us out of, getting it on the referendum for November, but we can do a special referendum if needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other council liaison or committee reports? All right, we'll move on to public participation in general. Any member of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function in the participants window. And anyone who is not using the application but is phoning into the Zoom may use the *9 function to raise hand. I do see Ms. Lyons has her hand up, so let me just unmute. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Lyons.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I realized I forgot to identify myself at the first public participation, so if you would note that for the record. I just wanted to also remind the public, if someone doesn't think of it later, when your counselor's remarks at the public hearing, I believe on the Plan of Conservation and Development, may be for tomorrow with Town Planning and Zoning, if I'm correct. And I'm hoping that people will tune in at least to listen to it, if not participate. I, like I say, am technically challenged, but I am, as you can see, able to get in on these meetings. Either people aren't taking the opportunity to get in or don't know how to get in, so I was glad to see that you're going to try and do in-person public hearing on the Anna Reynolds project. I'm glad to see it's going forward. It's been many, many years in the making. The Mill Pond Park pool, I guess I must have missed something that I didn't realize that there was even an option being thought of a indoor pool rather than an outdoor pool, but I'm glad to hear that that was voted down. And I'm also glad to hear that it's not going to be on the referendum along with Anna Reynolds. I think it's just going to be too much for the public to handle. I was wondering if there's going to be an official tour. Maybe NCTV could do a tour of the town hall, because it looks like it'll be a while before the public will be able to see it. There was something on Facebook I thought that I saw at one point, and then it disappeared. But I, for one, would like to see what it looks like, if that's possible. Give a shout out to the highway crew. They were here on Elton Drive last week. They must have been trying to get ahead of themselves. It was on Friday, and I have to say that I had a new neighbor that moved in, and his welcome to the neighborhood was being able to chop up his tree and put it to the curb and have our highway crew take it away from him. And as he was scurrying to get it to the curb, Jimmy Wells was kind enough to tell him, "Take your time, we're coming back again next week." So I'm hopeful that what's been in the press release, that the cleanup's going to start on the 10th and follow up to the 21st, will hold true, and that they'll be back here again, because there were some that were not prepared. But once again, a shout out to our highway crew. They did an awesome job, as always, and it's very nice to have that service in town, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure others do too. And speaking of which, the bulk waste, I always like to put a plug in for that, 860-667-5874, as people are starting to clean things out around their houses, being in because of COVID. I see more and more being put to the curb. All they have to do is call by Tuesday at 3:30, I believe, and it'll be picked up on Tuesday at 3:30. It'll be picked up on Thursday. But again, everybody stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you again soon back in person. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rose. Okay. I don't see any other members of the public, so we will continue on to remarks by counselors. Deputy Mayor Bedrego.
Yeah, I want to give a little bit of an unsung hero shout out to our town clerk, James. In addition to every evening he spent here doing multiple Zoom meetings and court, in addition to, to his regular job, he's been staying very late for the Zoom meetings, the move into the town hall. But this past Sunday on the Hartford Courant, there was a headline that really caught my eye, and it said, quote, "All praise the competent town clerks as primary approaches." And that really caught my eye. So as I was reading it, I didn't realize that in addition to everything else that's going on, the significant impact, the absentee ballots, the increase in absentee ballots in the mailings had on town clerks throughout the state. And I mean, it's their normal function to administer and collect ballots, but there was such an enormous, a significant increase in the amount of work. And from what I understand, the president of the town clerk Association, whatever, was quoted as saying that the instructions were kind of chaotic, kind of insane, a handoff, and it really took a significant effort on the town clerks to manage this. And in today's paper, they actually said that I think the postmark date is going to be extended 2 or 3 days in addition, because of the whole COVID crisis and the hurricane, whatever. So I was just thinking of James, in addition to like staying here every night, like till midnight, and coordinating. This came during the whole move to the town hall, moving offices. He's been, doing all the technology, and he also had this on his plate. So thank you, James. You're a hero.
Well said, Gail. Well said.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It has been an interesting primary. We'll say that. Today alone, we received 800 ballots by mail and another 200 by the box that we had to process, in addition to everything else that goes on, in addition to the town hall move. And I give credit to my staff. They are incredible. I'm so happy that I have them here. And it allows me to be able to do what I need to do for the town, for all their meetings and the technology and everything else that goes on. So I give the shout out more so to them. I'm just there to make sure that everything moves along smoothly.
I'll second that motion, Gail, because James also, in addition to all of those things you mentioned, has to take like 8 calls a week from me too, to check out procedure and protocol. He is the go-to guy for that. So thank you, James.
My pleasure.
All right. I don't see any other council hands up, so we will move on to a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Braverman and a
Second.
seconded by Councilor Anist. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned at 9:17. Thank you, everyone, for your flexibility and patience with the Zoom calls.
Good job.
See ya.
Have a
Stay
nice
well, stay
weekend.
safe, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aye.